Hi, welcome to another great art lesson. My name's Rodney Reese, and I'm kind of dressed like a very famous artist who did a very wonderful picture. And if you guessed Vincent van Gogh, you're right. He has many beautiful paintings, and we're going to study a technique that will end up looking like his thick paintbrush strokes. And the painting that we're going to examine and use as our guide is this painting known as A Starry Night. This is a very beautiful painting, and most people love it. It's very hopeful, and we'll talk a little bit more about the painting itself. Many art critics have thought that it's probably because Vincent van Gogh tried so hard to be a recognized artist during his lifetime but was not, that it was maybe based on a verse from Genesis. And just real quickly, it's from the Bible, but he was a very religious man, and you can look at that painting, because Joseph, who was abused and rejected by his older brothers, 11 older brothers, came to them one time and he said that he had another dream, and he said that, listen, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and stars were, the 11 stars were bowing down to me. Well, he had 11 brothers, and in this picture you can see there are 11 stars and a sun and moon. So that is why people think that maybe that was in his mind, and he was not really respected as an artist, though he tried very hard during his lifetime. So that's what we're going to end up painting today. The things that we're going to use is, of course, a canvas, a 9 by 12 canvas. We're going to use some watercolor markers that I've kind of pulled out, judging by the colors that he used in the painting, and crayons after that. And then toward the end, we're also going to use a paintbrush and a little bit of water. If you don't have a paintbrush, any kind of brush we'll use is fine. Interestingly, before I forget, in this painting, let me just describe it a little bit here. The colors that he used, I found out, for the stars, actually, because they're yellow and orange and blue, the way the human eye works, it makes the stars almost twinkle. It's called scintillate. When you use colors that are from opposite sides of the color wheel, called complementary colors, they bump up against each other in your eyes like, whoa, what's going on? So he used that for the stars in this tremendous drawing painting. The dark things in the beginning right here are cypress trees, and they're often associated with cemeteries and death even, which kind of gives another meaning to his dream thing. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to look at the painting. It's very easy to get a copy of this online, or probably in a book if you have an art book. It should be in there. It's one of the most famous paintings by Vincent van Gogh, and that's Vangogh, Go, not like go, but Van Gogh. He's from the Netherlands. He painted this in France, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and start to sketch with a pencil, which is another thing you can always erase, just kind of laying out where the cypress trees are, where those different stars are, where the whirling light is. And so let me get started on that, and I'll see you back here in a minute. So that was pretty quick and easy, so I'll bring it around one more time to see. I just kind of laid it out. There's no color on the painting right now. Something I want to point out too, because we're using markers and crayons, we're not going to be able to add white to this. So the white that's here is going to, you have to kind of think ahead. You don't want to color up all the white, because you see in this painting, a lot of that is white. There's white around the stars. There's white when it looks like the wind is whirling. So we're just going to gently color that and leave the white. Down here you can see the cypress trees are very dark, and that's okay. You can always darken up something, but you just there's no such thing as a white marker. Okay, so we have to use the white that we have provided right here that's already in the canvas. Okay, so let's get to this. I'm going to just kind of take my painting, and I think I might as well start with some of the lighter stuff, which is up here in the sky. Some of the, well, maybe I'll start with the hills. Change my mind, you know? There's nothing set that says you can't change your mind when you're doing art. Sometimes things just change on their own, and I like to call those in the art world happy accidents. Like, oh, look what happened. I think I'll just go with that. Yeah, so here I go. I'm drawing coloring in with my watercolor marker. I'm starting with this blue. And I'm kind of coloring at an angle to make it a little bit of a perspective, because it is a little bit, he's looking out a window actually in true life. And he did this from memory. He didn't, of course, paint at night, so he had to do it with memory, but he also used his imagination. So I think some people weren't used to that. They thought it looked like a cartoon or something. They didn't think that Vincent van Gogh was a real painter, when he just wished that the world could see the way he saw the world. It was all full of colors and all kinds of interesting shapes. He loved nature, loved to paint in nature and about nature. So here we go, we're painting this. Fill this in. I'm gonna maybe change colors and get a lighter blue. We're gonna need to make this kind of like brush strokes is what I'm doing to help the illusion that I'm using paint, but I'm really not, as you know, and you're not either. You're not cheating and using paint, are you? Okay. Use your watercolor markers. Have fun doing it. Sketch around. Follow your lines a little bit. The lines will kind of disappear when you get the watercolor markers on top of them. Okay, we're coming around, coming around. Got another little windy thing I just shot out here. It's coming around. Right. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to do some more of the dark land down here. And remember to try to make it sort of an angle, like you're looking in the distance. If you see the painting, it's not real evident, but his brush strokes are at a diagonal, so that makes it look much more like it's going back into 3D. You understand? So that's another part of the magic of this picture. Okay, and then let me get this blue on, and then we'll come back and do a little of the stars and the sun and moon. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to fill in this real dark part here, the cypress trees. But I also wanted to mention, see, it's kind of rough, and it doesn't really look like Vincent van Gogh's painting. And you know what? It's not supposed to. I'm not copying exactly his painting. I'm just kind of doing my version of his painting. Your version is going to be different than mine. It won't be like Vincent van Gogh's. So no matter what you do, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be your perfect painting, just like mine is. It's going to be a little different. That's okay. Who wants to see the same art all the time anyway? My interpretation of his interpretation. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to use my brown marker, come up here through these cypress trees, these dark, foreboding, scary almost, cypress trees. I think I'm going to outline them in black because they're really, really dark. I'm going to fill them in with some black and brown. And you know what? If you look at the painting real closely, there's even some red in there. Really kind of scary. Whoa. Like Maleficent's castle or something. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. It almost looks like a piece of rock to me. I'm glad somebody told me it was a tree, because I was like, wow, that's a tree. Kind of scary looking tree to me. When you're using your markers, I don't know if you figured this out, but they're kind of, most of them are at a point. So to get more coverage, if you lay it on its side a little bit, you can cover quicker. See the difference? If I just use the tip, it's like that. But if I use the side, I can get more color coming out faster. And that's okay. Either way, sometimes you need to just a little, like we're at the tippy top of that cypress tree. And then we're coming down and coloring broader. And we're going to layer it on. We're going to lay it on pretty thick on this dark tree. Because these are markers and they're okay. They're okay being on top of each other. So here we go with the tree. I got it mostly browned in. But also you can see, once I go over the brown again a second time, it kind of picks up a little bit more because of the canvas. This is a liquid, coming out of the marker, and this is a cloth, so it's absorbing a little bit of it, sticking to it. Okay. Let's get some more darkness in there. Let's do, get my black marker out again, coloring some of this, just especially down at the bottom, I think, where it's really dark. It's going off the canvas. Whoa. It's always good to color to the edge if you can, unless for some reason you don't want to. It's part of your picture. But here I am coloring again the old dark cypress trees. And let me tell you something, you guys. When I draw, I mostly draw and I sculpt with clay. I'm really not a painter, and I'm really not that good at coloring. But I'm just having fun doing this and helping you guys along with it. So I hope you're having fun. It's very important. Art should be enjoyable. It can be a job. It's work, but it's fun work. It's good work. It's like making a milkshake or something. That's pretty fun work. I'm going to throw some red in here because Vincent van Gogh had some red in there too. I just think it makes it really interesting. Like you almost wouldn't expect to see red coming out of a tree. What? Yeah. Okay, so there's what I'm going to stop right there for my tree, but then I'm going to start next, and you can watch me work on some of these stars and the sun and moon over here with the orange and yellows. Okay? Okay, so I got all that with just markers. And now I'm going to switch from markers, and the fun begins here because I'm going to go get my crayons. And you can see that I got to have some more color in there. I'm going to color basically as much as I want to, as much as I can even, the same color on top with crayons, because that's going to make it thick. And when we use our brushes at the end, you'll see what really happens, okay? So here we go with our crayons. I'm going to start with the dark blues. And what is this? Yep, Pacific blue. Very nice. So here we go. Coloring on top of the blue. Remember, I cannot get anything whiter than that. So if I want to keep some white in there to show the stars, the 11 stars, or the wind blowing through there, I kind of almost, I don't know if you can tell, started to color in this little church that's down in the village. And I was like, whoops, I want that to be white because I want it to show up. Another thing that is really interesting, there was a gentleman that wanted to know the window that Vincent van Gogh was looking out of when he painted it, was it really a scene? And he went back in time to June of 1889 when this painting was completed, and he realized that this was the planet Venus, which is also known as the morning star. So even though you've got this dark thing here going on, this is really a great painting of hope, because the morning is coming. It's a morning, it's a sunrise, and these are just the stars. Just you, in a few minutes, you probably wouldn't even be able to see them. You know how if you go out in early morning, you can still see the stars, and then when the sun comes up, they're invisible to our eye. But that's what this painting's about. So now I'm doing crayons. You can watch if you like.
Should I turn it off? Hey, should I turn it off?
So I've colored, I don't know if you can even tell because mostly it's the same color as the markers, but what we're going to do now is introduce the water aspect. As you were using your watercolor markers, if you got close to another watercolor, you probably saw it kind of blended together. Well, we're going to very gently take some water on the brush and start to blend the paint and the crayon together. So I have several sizes of brush. I think these are probably too small, except maybe for some real detail work if you want to do it. But and this is maybe a little bit too big because it would just, you don't want to get too much water on the canvas. You can always add more water. It's going to be real tough if it gets too soaking wet, okay? So keep that in mind. It's kind of like the white part too. Don't forget about that. If there's white in there that you want to keep, don't get too much water near it. And I'm going to show you how it works. What I'm going to do is take my brush, tap it off. I just like to take just very little water, so I'll use a paper towel or a napkin just to get the excess water off. And then I'm going to brush on right over top of the watercolor and the crayon, and it will begin to blend out and fade in to each other in a very beautiful way. So you can watch, if you like, up close while I do the painting with some water. Here we go. Okay, so we blended those together. I hope you had fun. Mine kind of could still use a little work. You can see, once again, this is Vincent van Gogh's original painting, and mine is here. They're not exactly alike, but look how vibrant his colors are. Mine are a little more because I'm using markers and crayons. And I hope you see too that when you put the water over the markers, how they blend together, and also leave some of the crayon little bits and chunks so it does look like paint. So I could work on this a little more and fill in parts, but it's a beautiful drawing, beautiful painting rather, that Vincent van Gogh left us. You could do this with any painting that you dream up, any kind of outdoor painting, maybe a portrait. Maybe you want to try somebody's face and do that with markers and then fade it in and drag out the colors real. You could be quite the professional if you'd like. So there's a joke on the internet about Let It Go from, Frozen, the movie Frozen, but they spell it like Vincent van Gogh, Let It Go. So you let it go, let your imagination go. Have a great time. Thanks for your attention. Hope you had a good time.